is not working already. Are you looking for a Christmas unit, a book, a bunch of activities to do with your kids for the Christmas season? It may be too late for this season, but you are going to want to check out this book for the next Advent season. So let me tell you about it. If you are new to my channel, my name is Rachel and I am a homeschooling mom to 3 kids, and this is my 6th year homeschooling. On this channel, I share mostly homeschooling content, but also about motherhood and homemaking and a little fun. So if that is the sort of content that you're interested in, or if you just want to hang out with us, we do like to get silly every once in a while, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell. So during this Advent season, we have been using this really fun book. It's kind of been the spine of what we have done every day. We have also done our Sunday school curriculum, which is focusing on Christ's birth and the events leading up to that as well. We are still doing our picture book. My daughters wanted to wrap those books, so they picked out all of our fun Christmas books as well as some from the library, and we are unwrapping one of those every day or 2. We have a lot of books. And I am using this season to slow down because we are doing a lot of baking right now because of what I'm going to show you in this book. But also we are just playing a lot of games as a family, which I talk about some of those games in these videos. You should totally check those out. They are family favorites for all of my kids, but especially the teen. If you have trouble buying for a teen, or if you have adults in your life who you have trouble buying for, you should totally check these out. But this Advent season has been so fun for us to just slow down, think about the season, but we are still learning a ton because this book is just jam-packed full of history. So what book am I talking about? The History of Christmas book. I saw a review for this book last Christmas, and so because of her recommendation, I grabbed it for this season. And I had forgotten what was in it, but I set it aside when I didn't have any other plans. The History of Christmas, which is 2,000 years of Christmas history, and it starts with the birth of Christ and ends all the way to present times. There are about 15 chapters to this book, each chapter having a different time period, and there are various activities or maybe some recipes at the end of each chapter if you want to pursue those. I think that's what drew me to this book. We have tried several of the recipes and are going to do a couple of the other activities. And so I want to tell you, we are only halfway through this book, but I wanted to make this video because I'm already recommending it to people. So let me tell you about what we've done and give you a closer look into the book. So this is the History of Christmas book by Heather I don't know, by her. Like I said, it has about 15 chapters. So we've got it going from Christ's birth all the way down to Christmas of today. So this is kind of how each chapter is laid out. There is something, so that's just an introduction. So there's something written about the history of the time period that is mentioned here. So in this example is Bethlehem and specifically the shepherds. So there's usually about 5 pages like this. I read this aloud to my children. And then at the end, there are scripture suggestions you could go over, discussion questions. I actually would probably recommend reading the scripture before you go through the history because the history is just that. It's like a history of that time. And then for this particular lesson, there was enjoy a shepherd's meal. So here's the recipe here with all the ingredients. And like I kept telling my kids, this isn't necessarily going to be your most favorite meals that you'll ever have, but it's like tasting history and seeing what it was like to be back there. So this was a savory lentil soup. supposed to be served with crusty bread, and I got some golden raisins to go with it. It wasn't bad. It could probably have had a few extra herbs and spices added to it, but having said that, it was really interesting to consider that this is what they would have eaten back then. Okay, so I want to mention, I've mentioned in several of my videos that we are a former classical conversations family. I'm not sure if we will go back to it or not, but having done it for 4 years, their foundations memory work, which is kindergarten through 6th grade, continues to come up, and it came up here. So this was the early church, Constantinople. It talks about Constantine legalizing Christianity. So if you are a CC family, I'm telling you, all of that memory work from cycle 1 and cycle 2 is going to come up in this book, which is so cool to recall. So this was about how the persecution of Christians, and they weren't allowed to celebrate Christmas, and then Constantine legalized it. This book talks a lot about the pagan traditions and the pagan practices and where they came from. So again, the suggested reading and the discussion questions and Roman cookies. And the interesting thing about this recipe is they did not have refined sugar back then, so they often used honey. They often used honey to sweeten their sweets, to sweeten their desserts. So that was interesting to taste this without refined sugar.
I'm going to do the rest of this so that we don't spoil it. We're all kind of going to clean it up.
What are we making? Early church cookies, right?
Yep.
Roman cookies.
Yep.
No refined sugar back then. They used honey. Not sure if it was this brand. Roman sesame honey cookies. Next was Boniface and the spread of Christianity. This one had a lot about pagan traditions and where they came from, like holly and hanging evergreens in your house. And so my children and I had an interesting discussion about that, and there's a controversy where some Christians don't think you should have any of that because of its pagan ties, and of course many Christians embrace that anyway. And so it was an interesting discussion to have, and my children and I discussed Romans 14 in that instance and what that says about meat being offered to idols. My daughter loved these cookies. I would say these are kind of like a shortbread. Again, no white refined sugar. They had brown refined.
Cheese, Natalie.
That's good. You don't need to keep mixing it. German oak log cookies. They tasted really good with coffee. So if you're a coffee drinker, those were great coffee cookies. Then we have Christmas gets a name. 1066, CC family, as you know what history sentence that sparked. It also talks about King Edward, or history. So this was really cool. William the Conqueror right here. This was just really cool because it took each of these time periods and specifically talked about Christmas in that time period. But it really was a history lesson. So it wasn't like, if you want to do school very lightly in December, you're still going to get a lot in here. So again, this same format here, and then this one did not have a recipe. What my family and I did was we read through all of these things and we decided what things we wanted to do. So we decided to have dinner by candlelight. We had a dinner, I can't think of where it is on here. On here somewhere, I'm not seeing it right now. We got a dinner that we could eat entirely by our hands. So I actually went to my local grocery store and picked up some fried chicken. I wanted to have corn on the cob, but I could not find any anywhere. And then I made some roasted potatoes and had the golden raisins out again, and just all foods that we could eat with our hands. what medieval dinner doesn't have traditional Southern fare, right? My husband actually hijacked the dessert because he likes doing that to me. And we didn't want to have too much sugar, so we were supposed to have a wassail drink. Bella! So that was fun. And I had my children the next day put on a Christmas play. So they worked together and tried to think of a play that they could do together. So that was interesting. And we're getting ready to make our gingerbread houses tomorrow. So we've done a few chapters since then, but we are planning on doing gingerbread houses. So this is kind of a fun way to add that in here. This was Italy and what they brought to our Christmas traditions. This recipe was for Italian sausage soup. Here's the discussion questions and the recipe. This Italian sausage soup recipe, I added extra Italian sausage. Do not recommend. It was really a lot. So stick to the ingredients. Don't add extra. The reason I add extra is because if I'm doing like a chicken noodle or a beef vegetable, I always add extra meat. But when it's sausage, this did not need it at all. So don't do that. And I couldn't find cannellini beans either. I know they're not uncommon. I just couldn't find them, so my soup was really more of a sausage vegetable soup. And then we've done Luther's Protestant Christmas and made these gingerbread cookies. That's all we've done so far, and I am just telling you, I am loving this book and the history that we're learning. We're going to do England, they're going to do early Williamsburg, so you can see here, this is King Henry VIII. Williamsburg, I don't think we're going to make mince pie. 24 ways to celebrate a Williamsburg Christmas. I think in this one and in the medieval one, it says to have a non-alcoholic wassail drink. So they don't have recipes for everything, but you can find, here it is, you can find that online. It looks like a very, very sugary drink. With the recipe I found had apple cider, pineapple, brown sugar. So a very, very, oh, and orange juice. Very, very rich drink, but would be fun because, like I said, it's like you're tasting history. Victorian decorations, oranges with cloves. Have you ever done that? I did that as a child. So yeah, lots of cool stuff. I highly, highly recommend this book. I'm gonna make the icing still. You guys excited?
No. That's good.
Look at all this candy.
What candy?
Oldest house. It's totally, he's getting ready to glue this on. It's totally his personality. Very neat,
Yeah.
and orderly.
Mine's very festive.
me know what fun things you have done for this Advent season, and have you run across any books similar to this? I love learning history with my kids and experiencing activities and recipes. I actually had thought about maybe this year doing a Christmas Around the World unit study with them. So if you know any great books for that, please share. I thought we should taste Christmas Around the World. Are you seeing a theme here? We like to taste things in this house. Is there a pen? Why are there always pens in this couch? Okay. Just in case I have, I don't know what I want to say. Can you guys just look inside my mind? Let me telepath it to you. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you next time. Bye.